Well, welcome back to another week. Well, we see an awful lot about the TSA shooting in LAX, and in fact, in the Sunday Nation of the USA, that's a supplement for many of the Gannett papers around the country, it says TSA union calls for armed guards. Quite frankly, I've been surprised that the government hasn't moved years ago towards having armed individuals with armed Humvees or armored vehicles of some sort outside of the airports like they do in Europe and many places around the world. They haven't gone that far yet, but this incident, this latest thing that's happened in LAX is moving in that direction. We don't have the latest word yet as to what's going on. It just seems a bit strange to us, however, that the parents were quite alarmed about this young man's, continence, his behavior, and that sort of thing. But none of his roommates or those who know him personally in California seemed aroused at all by his behavior. Felt that he was just a normal kid or young man. So it does make one wonder what happened, what was going on. One of the things that's occurred that a lot of people are not aware of is that almost every one of these shootings has involved depressant-style drugs, antidepressants, and that sort of thing. It's something that no one's really brought out in the major media to look at. What is the effect of these types of drugs on the psychology of these individuals who are going out and shooting people? Maybe that's the case in this instance too. We don't know. We don't even have enough knowledge to even begin to talk about it. Hopefully by next week we will. One of the things that we've noticed too is in the last week that New Zealand and China strengthened food safety cooperation. They signed an agreement between China and New Zealand in the way of food safety. It says the agreement shows commitment and a willingness between New Zealand and China to work together on food safety programs. It will allow the Chinese and New Zealand authorities to work together to enhance food safety, continually improve our regulatory regimes, and enhance the bilateral relationship. The agreement would further build on the strong relationship between the two countries, particularly in the agricultural and food sectors. Well, this is something we talked about a couple of weeks ago relative to the Chinese having a problem with food. Here's a recent report titled, "A Decade of Dangerous Food Imports from China." You'd be amazed at the various things that come into China, into the United States. I had no idea of. I knew about doggy treats and things of that nature, the things we've talked about on this video program. But I didn't realize that even fruits and vegetables were being imported from China. So what's happened is that the Chinese have created a problem for which they have a solution. And that is to sign agreements with countries like New Zealand. And the CFR has also suggested something like that relative to the United States, to have an interaction between the food safety programs and regulatory regimes, etc., between these various countries with China. And that doesn't bode well for the future of our food chain and agriculture in this country if we start to form an alliance like New Zealand is starting to regulate with the Chinese over not just their food, but our food as well. Something else that we see in the continuing debate on ObamaCare, out of the front page of the Times Digest this last week, it says millions eligible for free health policies. Now let me read you the first two paragraphs. Millions of people could qualify for federal subsidies that will pay the entire monthly cost of some health care plans being offered on the online marketplaces set up under Obama's health care law, a figure that has not gotten much attention, in part because the zero premium plans come with serious trade-offs, like the trade-off like you and I are going to have to pay for them. Three independent estimates by Wall Street analysts and a consulting firm say up to 7 million people will qualify for the plans, but federal officials and insurers are reluctant to push them too hard because they are concerned about encouraging people to sign up for something that might ultimately not fit their needs. Ultimately not fit their needs, like Obamacare. I mean, they're concerned that they're going to not fit their needs when the whole nation is screaming that this does not fit their needs. They don't want it. The high costs that are being added on to these insurance policies to pay for this kind of thing for free for people. What do? You stop it. But with the ersatz Republican leadership, the phony Republican leadership that we have, they are talking one thing and doing another. There are many Republicans in the Congress that want to do away with Obamacare, but not the Republican leadership. They want to keep it. If you listen very closely to what they're saying, almost all of them will say that we need to repeal this and replace it, or we need to revise it. None of them are saying that we have to stop a national health care program, period. A national health care program is very, very dangerous to the liberty of the people. This is a very interesting one from Colorado, because Colorado now is asking for $1 billion more for its school systems. They need $1 billion more to teach these kids. Just south of Denver, a district where 1 in 4 kindergartners is homeless, has cut 10 staff positions and bracing for another call. 1 in 4 kindergartners are homeless? Are you saying that these kids are wandering the streets and you're finding them there and you're pulling them into kindergarten class? I don't know why this is worded the way it is, but it can't be right. I guess what they're saying is that they live in single-family homes or whatever. But one of the things buried in this article also is the fact that the immigrants that they're teaching in the schools to teach them English, immigrants teaching them English, is becoming overwhelming. In other words, people from all over the world, mostly south of the border, are going into these schools, and many of them are the kids of illegal immigrants, but we're teaching them and we're getting that burden in our schools, in our hospitals, and other areas. But they need $1 billion more for all of this business. You see, they allow a problem to fester, or they create the problem in the case of our food chain, and then they have a program for us. More money, more regulations, and that sort of thing. These are just 2 manifestations of this tactic that has always been used by the socialists of creating a problem, giving us a solution that's even worse, creating more solution and more solution until ultimately you have total socialism. You see it in the schools, you're seeing it now in our food chain, you're seeing it in the health care services, from Medicare, Medicaid, now Obamacare. What's next? Well, we know what's next. It's got to be stopped now. Till next week. We'll see you then.